Nothing exposes fake friends faster than self-improvement. Here's the funny thing about life. The moment you decide to level up, whether it's chasing a dream, starting a business, or simply becoming a better version of yourself, you'll notice a shift. Some people will cheer you on, but others, they'll start acting weird. The support turns into silence. The compliments become passive-aggressive statements. The people who claimed to once have your back are suddenly nowhere to be found. Or worse, they're talking behind it. Why is that? Well, because your choice of growth forces them to confront their own stagnation. Today, we're diving into why haters gonna hate, why grown adults act like bullies, and why none of it should stop you from becoming who you were always meant to be and inheriting the life that you deserve to have. Welcome to the Inheritance Podcast. Here's what I love about this podcast, and it is that this whole entire podcast and all of the content that I put out, it's all about pushing you to put yourself out there and to become the person that you so desperately want to become, whether that is successful in business or finally going to therapy and getting better in your personal relationships or overcoming addiction or getting out of rock bottom, as we talked about in our previous episode, whatever that looks like for you. And it is supposed to be encouraging because a lot of people go through their entire lives and deal with the same things for 70, 80, 90 years, given, however long people live. And it's just so sad. There is a plethora of resources and motivation and encouragement for anyone and everyone in the world to access to overcome the things that they're facing or overcome, the lemons that life hands you or whatever. And so I feel like there comes a point when it's no longer an excuse for you to stay in the situation that you're in. It's just a matter of what you are choosing. And I love this podcast so much, and I love the community that we are building here because we're curating a community that is goal-driven, that is purpose-driven, people who want to be better and become more. And it just sucks because those people who want that for themselves and finally find the motivation to actually take action on any of those things, whether it's personal, professional, or, intellectual, emotional, whatever it is that you are dealing with in your life and you start to overcome, it never freaking fails. There comes up some stupid outsider in the comment section or somebody who just knew you in your previous life, and they talk amongst themselves and just say, oh, they'll never overcome this. They'll never be successful, blah, 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 blah. It's so annoying. We all have the ability to grow and get better and not just live the same lifestyle and repeat the same cyclical patterns for our entire lives. And yet when someone decides to actually take action and do something to better themselves, there's always the naysayers. Unfortunately, that is just the way that the world is. As I said in the introductory statement, I think a lot of it has to do with jealousy and people who are just frustrated that somebody actually had the audacity to actually do something rather than just say over and over again, oh, I wish I could get that business off the ground, or I wish I could lose all this weight, or I wish I could overcome my anxiety, or whatever it is. And somebody who actually does it starts to have some sort of breakthrough in that area of their life. It just never fails. There's always somebody who has to say something. People who choose to be stagnant are always jealous of those who find success. And it's so funny because there's no such thing as just overnight success in anything. You can't just drop weight in 5 seconds. You can't just become famous by not trying. You can't become wealthy by not working. It's so ridiculous. But for whatever reason, the second that people start to get momentum in whatever it is that they are pursuing, there's always someone, whether it's somebody that you personally know or some random person, which, as I've said in previous episodes, I do believe that there are bots out there that just put out hate comments just to stir the pot. But it's just a part of the whole growth process. And why is that? Why is there so much hate out there? Why do haters gotta hate? Why does this have to be a stigma? I do think that humanity in and of itself has issues with pride, and a lot of that can flare up when people that knew you when you were not successful see that now you're successful and they're not there. I do think that can be an aspect of it. The fact that you came from a similar place that they were at and now you're leveling up, whatever that looks like, and they're not, confronts them with the fact that there's nothing different between you and those people, those haters, other than their inaction. And just as we've talked in previous episodes about your inaction, about the things that hold you back and the obstacles that you face, those people who are watching you get momentum going and gain traction on your goals and your dreams, they are going to be confronted with their own inaction. And nobody likes to be confronted with that because it's literally just a freaking mirror. It's just like, here, take a look at yourself. Like, you got no one else to blame but you. But nobody likes to feel that. And so they just kind of like push it off onto someone else. And a lot of that hate can come about in different ways. Like, it can be up in your comment section. It can be behind your back. It can be like to your face. Like, I've had it all. I have had hate comments. I have had gossip. I have had people literally say to my face that like they don't believe that I'm genuine or whatever. And it's just a part of the growth process. I think it makes us stronger. I think it makes us more determined when we accept the fact that the only reason why it's happening is simply because it's confronting the other person and it's not personal towards us. And we talk a lot about this in other episodes. So we're going to dive into why haters going to hate and how you can deal with it and keep pushing on into your dreams and goals if this is something that you're experiencing. And we're also going to talk about real life stories of people who have dealt with this in their own life as they have been pursuing their goals and dreams and they became successful in spite of these things, to really encourage you to just tune out all of the noise, filter out what you're listening to and what you're giving your ear towards so that you can not be held back by anything else and just keep running hard after what it is that you desire for yourself. We're going to kind of like unpack this in some bullet points. So we're going to start with the first being the harsh reality of chasing your dreams. And it just is that the moment that you put yourself out there, whatever out there looks like for you. It could be that you want to be a content creator. It could be that you want to be a YouTuber or a podcaster. You know, I am a prime example of this right now. Or it could be that you want to start a business or a personal brand. No matter what that looks like, the moment that you put yourself out there, people will have opinions. As I have said in previous episodes before, I do think it is vital for anybody who's going to be on this journey to read books similar, if not this book, but read books similar to The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. There's just no way that you're going to escape it. Like, no matter what you do, people are going to have opinions. People are going to have opinions on what you wear. People are going to have opinions about the way you talk. People are going to have opinions about like the way you do your hair and your makeup. I love this saying because it's so true. Because my mom used to tell me this saying because I would get so hung up on like every little thing that somebody thought or said about me. And my mom just one day was like, Cicely, people have opinions just like they have butts and they all stink. It would just make me giggle and it would make me feel like better and a little bit more validated. But at the same time, every single person on the freaking face of the planet has an opinion about literally anything and everything. It's a right because we have a brain and we have free will and we get to exercise our thoughts, you know, and our free will in that manner. And so we can have thoughts and opinions about each other. And so there's just nothing that you're going to be able to do to escape that. So if that is the reason why you are not putting yourself out there, like you're never going to put yourself out there. But you just need to understand, like, this is just the beginning of the harsh reality of chasing any sort of goal or dream, is that someone somewhere is going to be like, yeah, that's dumb. Yeah, that's stupid. I'm not trying to discourage you and say like, this is just going to be a horrible time. It's just, you have to accept the fact that like, not everybody's going to be jazzed about whatever it is that you're doing. And the fact of the matter is like, are you doing it for them anyway? No. You're not, but just be aware. Not everyone will support you and some will actively try to discourage you. That is just part of the whole shindig here. I don't understand the notion why people feel like they have to share their thoughts and opinions about stuff, whether it's like they're voicing their support or they are voicing their discouragement or whatever. But for some reason, people a lot of the time feel like they need to do that. A prime example is parents. Parents feel like they need to voice their thoughts and opinions about things. And I think parents have a little bit more skin in the game of our lives simply because they were a part of our childhood. If you did have a parent that was involved in your childhood, I know I did. And anytime that I would, say, I'm going to go do this, my parents would be like, let's think about that for a second. And it's not necessarily that they were trying to discourage me, but they have skin in the game. But for whatever reason, there are people who say it regardless. At the end of the day, you're a grown adult. People are going to have opinions and they're going to tell you what they think that you should do or not do. It's ultimately all they're trying to do is discourage you. They can't stop you. That's your journey to figure that out if it's going to work or not. I think the thing that is the icing on top of the cake of this harsh reality is that the negativity and, the discouragement, it doesn't always just come from strangers. It often comes from friends and family and even people who you might have thought were going to cheer you on. Maybe people that you thought were even going to partner with you on this endeavor. As we are sorting out what it is that we want to do with our lives while we're here on the earth, it's not always going to be the idea of the other person. I have my own opinions about why it is that people have their own visions for someone else's life and why they feel the need to put that on someone. But regardless, it happens. People think oh, well, this is who you should marry, or this is what you should do with your life. Or I think that you would be well suited doing this. And then when you decide, well, this is my goal and my dream with my life and my time here on earth, it's not what they envisioned. And so they're like, oh, well, I didn't see you doing that. And it can come from people that it might be disappointing to hear that sort of opinion from. People that you are close to and you have to see on a regular basis. It's part of life, and it's the harsh reality of actually beginning the whole thing. I've talked in depth about my photography business in previous episodes, and I had always thought that the good girl thing to do was to graduate high school and go straight into college and get a degree and then land a corporate job. And when I was younger, I remember I went to go and visit some family out on the East Coast, and they kind of reinforced that idea. So I went to college and I was getting a degree in communications, and I had already gotten my associate's degree and I didn't really know what I wanted to major in. So I took a quick break for college and I went back and put myself through school. And so I'm getting my degree in communications and I'm doing all of this stuff that in all these classes I'm paying out of pocket for, I am years ahead of. And so I just was spending a lot of money to basically just get a piece of paper to validate the knowledge that I had already acquired, the skills that I had already acquired, simply because someone else told me that that is what I should do. And I hated it. Not to mention I was almost going broke just to get a piece of paper to validate what I was already doing in a professional environment and skills that I had already had. Any project that I would do in this degree with other students, I would teach them the material because for whatever reason, the professor just didn't do a good enough job as to how to handle the equipment or whatever. And so I would reteach all of the material to my classmates in our project so that they could understand it. It was bro, I do not need this. I just one day was I don't want to keep paying out of my own pocket. I was working full time. I was going to school full time just to get the degree because that's what I was told that I should do. And I was you know what? I'm starting a business. I don't need this. And I built a very successful business. And for 4 years, I was self-employed doing full-time wedding content creation and decided to pivot away from it for other reasons. But it was I was fully capable of doing what I had in mind already. But because I listened to the outside voices, I felt that's what I needed to do. And the same thing goes for Oprah Winfrey. She's a great example for this. She was told early in her career that she was unfit for television. And it's we see her now. Can you imagine if she would have just listened to the naysayers? We wouldn't have the Oprah. She pushed forward and became one of the most influential media moguls in history. And so the same thing can go for you. You just have to realize the second that you make the decision that I'm going to do this, I'm going to put myself out there, I'm going to quit school and I'm going to start a business, or I'm going to go to school. I'm not saying that I'm against the education program, or I'm going to go to therapy or whatever. People are going to have their thoughts about it. It's just, you have to understand that you can't let those things be the door that shuts in your face. People will always have opinions because we'll always have butts. So the second part of this is that family is going to doubt you. And I do think it's a little bit harder when you have close relatives and family members on the opposing side of maybe your goals and dreams. But Nonetheless, it happens, and we have to process it and consider what we are going to do if we have parents or siblings or cousins or aunts and uncles or whoever you're close to declaring their opinions and their discouragement of whatever it is you're doing. Family members might not believe you can change because they've only known the old version of you. I think that is the biggest thing for this, is the fact that family is with you the majority of your life. Parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, grandma, grandpa, whoever raises you is going to be seeing you from 0 to whatever. And so they know all of your pitfalls. They know all of your flaws. They know all of the things that have held you back up until this point that you're like, I'm done. I'm making a choice. I'm going a different direction. I'm going to start this business. I'm done, sitting on the couch complaining about why my situation's still the same. But they're like, oh yeah, you've always said that. You've said for 10 years that you're going to go to the gym, and they know. And that honestly, I do think that there is merit to that to a degree. Nonetheless, if you are committing to something, it can be discouraging. Same thing for a spouse. They're kind of going to be those that are going to be like, I'll believe it when I see it. And that can be difficult to overcome and find the motivation to keep going regardless. So one thing that you're just going to have to keep in mind is they may dismiss your growth, saying things like you've always been this way and you're not going to change. And you need to remember that they may feel threatened because your success makes them question their own lack of progress. Just as I said in the beginning, once you start to develop momentum as you are going, then they can start to be like, oh, dang, they're actually doing it. And they are intimately confronted with their own lack of progress, with their own lack of growth. And that is the harsh reality of family members. They have known you for X amount of time. So if you've been saying for the last 10 years that you're going to write a book, but every time you do, you make excuses because it's a lot of work, and then you end up never picking up the laptop and starting to hash out the story that you've been itching to write, and then you get frustrated because you haven't changed, they've witnessed all of that. And so that is what they associate with every time that you say, I'm going to do this. And when you actually figure out whatever it is that you're going to do, and you start actually putting legs to your plans, well, of course, it's going to be the first thing that they think, is because that's all that they've ever seen. Or you can have the opposite end where you actually start gaining momentum in it, and you start developing that story, and you start sticking it out and getting through it. Then they're going to be like, oh shoot, what changed? What clicked there that I'm not getting? And maybe they'll see that there are other ways that they themselves have been stagnant, that they themselves have kind of sat on the couch and not pursued their goals and their dreams. And it can kind of create some tension. Others may genuinely believe they're protecting you from failure. Anybody and everybody can have an opinion about something, especially if they feel like they need to save you from something. And a lot of families really love very intently, and they love deeply, and they've got deep roots with each other, and they're really close. And so if for any reason, you have siblings or you have parents that feel like they need to protect you from any potential harm or failure, they don't want you to put yourself out there too much, and they don't want you to potentially humiliate yourself or whatever. And I totally get it. You have to realize if this is your goal and your dream, you've got to figure that out. A lot of people struggle with the savior complex. I think that's just something that you have to wrestle out in your process. Is the issues with family can kind of take on these 3 faces, where they dismiss your growth and say, well, you've always said you wanted to change. What's different now? Or that you actually do it and they kind of are jealous because it confronts them in a very intimate way because they live in your house or you're very, very close with them. Or they may just have a savior complex and they just don't want you to fail and they believe that they're doing the right thing for you. But either way, none of these things should shape your reality. You have to make decisions for yourself, for your family, whatever that looks like, because you can't live your life for someone else. I mean, you can ask my husband. There have been many times where he has told me that I'm cringy sometimes, putting myself out here. But at the end of the day, I have made this decision to do this because it's what I believe in and I enjoy it. And eventually I do believe that it'll become something more than just what it is now. He no longer says that about me, but you're going to have a naysayer somewhere, even if it is your spouse. But I do believe that eventually it can turn completely around the more that you believe in it and the more that you pursue it. Eventually people will start to see the effects of your consistency and your discipline. Elon Musk. His father doubted and belittled him growing up, even calling his ambitions foolish. Despite this, Musk built multiple billion-dollar companies, Tesla, SpaceX, etc., while proving his doubters wrong. And one of those doubters being his own dad. So if your families can doubt you and say like, oh, your content's cringe, or show them that they don't know any better. Keep freaking at it. Just keep swinging that axe. Eventually the tree will fall. Come on. You got it. Number 3, we're going to talk about friends who gossip, hate, or get jealous. And so this one is fun as well. And I do think anybody and everybody can experience it when they start pursuing their goals and their dreams. And so the reality is that some friends might secretly or openly root against you because your growth highlights their stagnation. We could just summarize this whole podcast by saying like a lot of the times when people are naysayers and they are haters, it's just because you're actually doing the thing they wish they were doing. Maybe not like the thing, but you're doing something. It is so freaking frustrating that there are so many armchair haters and freaking keyboard warriors up in comment sections, just like absolutely trashing people. And you know what the heck they're doing? Nothing. You go to their profile, no videos, nothing's posted, no original ideas are being put out of them. All they're doing is spewing hatred in somebody else's video. And it's like, bro, like you're one to talk. And I have seen so many like billionaires post on their Instagrams about how the people who actually are doing something are not the ones hating on those who are starting. The billionaires who actually like built crap and like gained momentum and found success, when they see that other people are doing the same thing, that they're taking action and pursuing stuff, they literally don't say anything. They are not haters. The people who are haters are the ones who are doing nothing. So honestly, if I could just put that into perspective for you, if you're a hater, if you're listening to this and you're a hater, like a lot of people are just uncomfortable with the fact that somebody that they knew was doing nothing is now doing something. And there's no excuse for them not doing anything. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't get it. It's just, I don't have that problem. I don't do that to people. I used to be a hater, but it was just because I was freaking jealous of people, bro. That's like that is the whole premise of what I'm trying to say. And it's just, it's silly. It's silly. Anyway, instead of supporting you, they talk behind your back, downplay your achievements, or make passive aggressive comments. Honestly, they literally do this just to make themselves feel better. I don't have anything else to say other than that. The people who do this, they are just trying to make themselves feel better for their inaction. And it's pathetic. Moving on. It's hard to accept, but sometimes outgrowing people is part of the journey. That, I think, is actually something worth discussing. There have been many times where I myself have moved on in my life into like a new season or new journey, new adventure. And people didn't come with me. They didn't follow me. They didn't go relocate where I relocated to. What I experienced on the other side of that decision to move or to start or to change or whatever, I experienced exponential growth. And I'm not saying that by staying they didn't, but I do know for a fact that on the other side of my decision to implement change or implement growth or to move away or whatever, I grew. I became a better version of myself. And when they didn't go with me, there was an element of like a death in that relationship because we were not aligned as much as we used to be prior to my decision to move on or whatever. And that is just a part of life. There are going to be many people in your life who are only in your life for a season or maybe even a shorter amount of time. just depending on like what your life looks like. I do think that there are lifetime friends. I have one in particular that I think about, and I do think that some of my family members are lifetime friends where we kind of go in tandem together, where we're like in parallel growth journeys and we are always kind of like moving in the same direction. But that is not every single person in your life. You're going to know a lot of people as you exist here on this earth. I mean, the same is for your dating relationships. Like your first boyfriend, girlfriend, you don't just like marry, like you're figuring it out. Like you get to know that person, and the longer that you're together and you grow and mature and they grow and mature, like sometimes it just doesn't work out because you're like going in different directions, or you have different ideas for your futures, or one is just not growing. I don't know. They could be toxic. If you are on a growth journey, you are going to outgrow people. And I'm not trying to say that that is what I have experienced 100% in my life. I have outgrown people. That is why I married who I married, and I didn't marry somebody in my past. That's why, my friendships have ebbed and flowed, because I have outgrown some of those relationships. It's just a part of life. Like when you choose to better yourself and mature yourself and invest in yourself, not everybody is on board with that. Not everybody is wanting to do that. And so they will choose to stay complacent, and you will grow. And there comes a time where as you are, rubbing shoulders with the people who are choosing to stay complacent and you're growing, that there's friction. It's like there's disagreements. There is differences in perspective. You're not going to align. And so you will part ways. And it's because the things that you are doing and implementing in your life no longer align with the things that they're not doing and implementing in their life. And there is nothing wrong with that. It's just a part of the journey of the human growth experience. And it sucks. It is super freaking painful. I'm not trying to diminish that just by saying like, oh, it's a part of life, but like it happens. You're going to outgrow people because there are people who just cannot see their immaturity. You can't see what you can't see. Like, I don't know how to say it other than that. And some people cannot see that they need to grow and change. And some people just plain do not want to because it's too hard or it's too painful, or, in order to do that, they need to admit that they're wrong or whatever. You're going to outgrow them. And that's going to be part of the reason why they're going to do what they do and they're going to say what they say. And honestly, like if your friends are doing this to you, if your friends are gossiping about you, if your friends are being passive aggressive about your growth journey, they're not your friends. I'll end this section with this statement. You need to recognize real supporters versus those who only cheer for you when you're at their level. I mean, I feel like as I have grown and matured, I can kind of like discern and gauge who is a real supporter. There is a type of language that I look for when I am investing my time and energy into building a friendship with somebody, mentalities and ideologies that I look for that can help me figure out if this person is really for me or if they're only with me because I am like at their level. You don't want to be lifelong friends with somebody who literally wants to handcuff you to the chair that they don't want to get out of. You don't want to be friends with that person. You want to be friends with people who you're going to level up when they are working hard and they're trying to mature and grow and they're not finding success and they are still freaking cheering for you. You want that friend. You want that person in your corner. You want those people, and you don't need to waste your time being friends with somebody simply because you've already established, some sort of like intimate connection or whatever. You don't need to stay friends with someone who only is there for you and is only cheering for you because you have not changed and you haven't outgrown them. It's really easy to see who those people are, because if they're doing it to someone else with you, they're going to do it to you. Ditch them. Break up with your boyfriend. Break up with your best friend. Oh, somebody come get me. A good example of this is Lady Gaga. So in high school, former classmates made a Facebook group mocking her dream of becoming a singer. I did not know this. She used their negativity as fuel and became a global icon, proving them all wrong. Now I love Lady Gaga even more. She flipped that entire hate train that those people were on its head. And now she has all these fans who look forward to the content that she puts out, who look forward to her art that she puts out, regardless of like where you stand on like Lady Gaga or Elon Musk or Oprah Winfrey or whoever else I'm going to talk about in this podcast. It doesn't negate the fact that like every single person on the face of the planet who is successful at anything has someone who does not agree with what they're doing, doesn't like what they're doing. And honestly, like they will go and do stupid crap and say stupid crap in order to discourage them from doing it. Like honestly, to think about Lady Gaga being in high school, having an entire Facebook group of high school bullies saying this about her, even Lady Gaga, even Elon Musk, even Oprah Winfrey, even you. But it shouldn't deter you. So next we're going to talk about people who want to grow with you but cannot. And this one is a doozy. Some people admire your journey but don't have the courage or means to take the leap with you. Instead of celebrating your progress, they may pull back out of insecurity or guilt. Understand that their limitations don't have to be yours, and that it's okay to leave people behind if they aren't willing to grow with you. This is painful. People that you're in alignment with and people that you see eye to eye with, and you know, they're cheering you on and you're cheering them on. And for whatever reason, when it's time to implement whatever it is, launch the business, launch the brand, they just, for whatever reason, they don't. Nonetheless, it can be super painful to feel like you are moving forward. Like you jumped on the train, like, Elphaba Glinda. Elphaba was going to go see the wizard. She's going to go by herself. And Glinda originally wasn't going to go. Like, can you imagine witnessing Defying Gravity and Glinda wasn't there because she just didn't get on the train? The whole moment of Defying Gravity with Glinda and Elphaba, watching that in film, I wept because that is the whole song where they could have done the right thing together in tandem. I think that's why that song is so sad, is because you can tell that Glinda wants to do that. More than anything, you can tell that Glinda wants to be with Elphaba, her best friend, but she knows that is not her fight. It's Elphaba's fight. And so they split in a very painful ballad that is iconic in its own way. I had seen the stage adaptation before I was mature enough to realize what was happening. And now that I've experienced it in my life, where I have supporters of people who couldn't come with me in my journey, it's painful to leave them behind. It's painful to commit to my process, knowing that is a road I have to walk alone. And not having the validation of them being there to say like, yeah, what she's doing is good. I'm right here with her, blah, blah, blah. Like, not all of us get that chance to have someone walk the road with us and validate what we're doing and validate our dreams and our goals and tell the world that like, we're still the same person. We just have more money, or we're still the same person, or we just have more followers online, or we're still the same person. We just go to therapy more often, whatever. Like, we don't have someone else validating us to those who are the naysayers. It doesn't make the decision that we made and the road that we chose to walk a bad one. I'm sure that there are people in our life who wish that they could go with us. It's just they either chose not to for their own reasons, or they just can't. They have other convictions. They have other commitments. That might happen to you in your pursuit of your dreams and goals, is you might have people that you leave behind there's no animosity. It's just different. And my very, very, very best friend, I would consider her my Glinda if I was Elphaba. Her and I have been best friends since middle school. We still keep in touch on a regular basis, but she lives on the opposite side of the country. I have nothing but love for her, but the lives that we have chosen to live and the paths that we have chosen to walk on are not the same. Do I have her in my heart with me everywhere I go? Absolutely. but I don't have her with me to fight my fights, to validate my choices, and to vindicate me from any other haters in my comment section or in private circles with people or whatever. Like, she has her own situations that she's dealing with, and I am with her in her heart and spirit, but that's all that I have. But I do believe that the decisions that I've made and the decisions that she's made for her family and the ones I've made for mine are the right ones. It's just part of the process. So we'll use another fun little example with a celebrity, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Many of his childhood friends in Austria didn't understand his vision of becoming a bodybuilder, movie star, and politician. While they stayed in their comfort zones, he moved to America and built an empire. So you may have friends who love the idea of what you're doing, or they want to be a part of it and then they back out, last second or whatever. But either way, if this is your path and your goal and your dream, ultimately, you are the only person that can pursue it and make it a reality. And just because someone else isn't going with you doesn't mean that you shouldn't. All right, so let's move on to dealing with online haters and cyber bullies, because let's be so for real, that's what they freaking are. The bigger you get, the more opinions you will attract. That is just a fact. The more followers that you have, the bigger the platform that you have, the more eyeballs you have on you. Inevitably, the more eyeballs you have on you, the more ears that you have listening to what you say, the more humans you're going to have involved in the whole process, which means everybody who has an opinion, a different perspective, there's always going to be more mouths talking or more fingers typing, if you get my drift. People leave hateful comments not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something at all. And I said this in the section about friends who gossip. And it is ultimately the same thing. As I said, I feel like we could honestly just address each section with that notion. Is the majority of the people who are frustrated with you and have hatred towards you or gossip towards you or whatever it is that they're doing, I would venture to guess it's because they're not doing anything and you are doing something. It is so dumb. Many critics are projecting their own fears, failures, or jealousy onto you. So this is how you handle the negativity. Ignore, delete, block, or use it as fuel. Honestly, I feel like I've done all of those things. You can engage with it, you can delete it, you can ignore it, or you can just prove them wrong. You have every right to filter what it is that you listen to. And you have every right to respond or ignore or just get it out of your system at all. Or just be like, you know what? This doesn't bother me, but I'm going to prove you wrong. Like, I admire anybody and everybody who uses any of these approaches to any of that. So we need to shift our mind into, if no one's talking, you're not making waves. Oof, that'll preach. Haters mean you're doing something right. The bigger you get, the more waves that you make and the more impact that you have with your life, the bigger the target is on your back. When I was younger and we would watch, historic things happen, like, assassinations on presidents and things of that nature, I was always so confused. But now that I'm getting older and I'm seeing things like this happen to people of much smaller platform sizes and much smaller of waves that they're making, it really just proves the fact that people just simply hate because they cannot settle within themselves the fact that they are not doing anything. But as I said, you have every right to just delete it, don't listen, ignore, do whatever you need to do in order to keep going, and do not listen to the people online. They are hiding behind the anonymity of their own devices, and it is so lame. In the words of Taylor Swift, say it in a tweet, that's a cop-out. And speaking of Taylor Swift, we are going to use her in this example. She has been ridiculed, cyberbullied, and even had public feuds like with Kanye West. I know that has its own lore to it, but I'm not going to get into that. And instead of letting it break her, she turned the negativity into fuel, using it as inspiration for some of her biggest hits. There is nothing that I think is more entertaining about Taylor Swift other than the fact that she takes people's hatred and monetizes on it. Like, I don't know what's a bigger F you than that. She's like, oh, you have something stupid to say? Okay, well, I'll just make millions of dollars off of it then. Well, it's not going to bother me. Like, I'll just be sitting up in my new mansion and vacationing over here. I paid for all of this with your words. Regardless of if you like her or you do not, anybody with a goal or a dream should take a page out of that book. All right, we're going to move on to the next point, which is the power of resilience and self-belief. Success is about endurance, which is outlasting the negativity. Learn to validate yourself rather than seek approval. That's really hard for somebody who is like me. I thrive on just applause from people. I don't know what it is. I feel better about myself if I know that I'm making people happy. The longer that I have been alive, the more that I have realized just how like fickle people are. They change their opinions and they change their support with the freaking wind. If I were to chase that, I would be the most inconsistent person. I would not be even remotely close to who I know myself to be. And I just don't know if I could believe in that. I don't even know what I would be believing in. It's just, that is the reality of the fact that if you are always chasing approval of man, you are never staying true to who you are. So what are you chasing approval of man for? If you're chasing approval of man for you, but you don't know who you are, then you're chasing the approval of man for absolutely nothing, because there's no substance to whom you are chasing approval for. So maybe let's get over that one. Easier said than done, though. You will need to surround yourself with like-minded, supportive people. And we've already talked about those who support unconditionally versus those who support simply because you are on their level. And you need to filter your friendships. You need to make sure you have the right people in your corner. You will also need to stay focused on your mission instead of wasting energy on people who will never support you. You don't need to be the savior. Get rid of your savior complex. You don't need to intervene on every single person who says something about you. You don't need to try to fix people who have no interest in fixing themselves or getting better. You don't need to try to bring people along with you who have no intention of coming with you. Just drop them. Just walk away. Your life is too damn short. You don't have all of the years that you think that you do. And yes, I'm saying this as a 28-year-old, but like by the time that I'm 40, I would hope that I have tripled or quadrupled the life that I have lived up until now. And I plan to do that by doing this very thing. I'm going to focus. You're either with me or you're not. Like, I'm not going to try to convince you. I don't need to persuade you to grow and get better. If you have no interest in doing that, if you want to stay exactly right where you're at, be my guest. I'm leaving. I am not the savior of your life. I know that because no one was the savior of mine, and I had to figure out my own problems, and so they can do the same. If they want to get involved in what I'm doing and commit to that, cool. But I am not going to force anyone. I'm not going to persuade anyone to do that, because if they don't want to do it, there's no amount of time or energy that I can devote into convincing them otherwise that's going to change that. You only have so much time in your life. Focus on what it is that you have in front of you that you want, or commit to throwing your life at everyone else who's going to waste it. That's really the only two choices you have. But I know that if you're listening to this podcast, it is because you don't want to throw your life at people who are going to waste your time and energy. You will know the people who are going to run alongside you, and you will know who's worth your time and energy based off those interactions. Life is too short to just like keep stringing along people who are not going with you and who are wasting your time. Like, it's just stay focused on your mission. Don't waste your energy on people. And as painful as it is to say goodbye, it will be infinitely more painful if you continue to delay the inevitable. It's like a breakup. It sucks. But you know what? There are other people who will run with you. There are other people who will push you, who will be ahead of you, pulling you along because they want better for you. And you need those people. You don't need the others. All right. So we're going to have another example of this, and we're going to talk about Walt Disney. The one and only Walt Disney experienced this for himself. He was fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity. Can you believe that? And faced multiple business failures. He kept going, and today his name is synonymous with one of the most successful entertainment empires in history. And empires is the correct word to use there. Walt Disney himself knew when it was time to say goodbye, and we need to do the same for us when it comes to believing in ourselves and not waiting on other people to tell us when it's okay and when it's not okay. Let's just take a deep breath. I know that this is a lot. I know that relationships with people, especially those that we know, it's a lot to deal with this while you're also trying to figure out yourself and you're trying to make headway in your own success and your own goals and dreams. Let's take a deep breath. I promise you it's going to be okay. I'm going to leave you with a couple final thoughts. The first being, keep going no matter what. And I know we talked about a lot. Talked about gossip and slander and hate comments, and we talked about family members discouraging you and just insecurities and all that stuff. But no matter what you are dealing with, just if you can just keep taking steps in the direction of who you want to become, you'll eventually figure it out. The things that need to fall away will fall away. The people who need to shut up, they'll shut up. Or the people that you need to leave behind will get left behind. Every successful person has dealt with hate, so consider it a rite of passage. I think that's what makes success so sweet and honestly so precious, is that it's something that in order to achieve success, you have to deal with so much. And then on the other side of it, when you receive that success and when you get where you want to be, that's what makes it honestly just so worth it. It is freaking hard to get to success. And it's not going to be simple. And it's not just going to be something that happens overnight. And it's pretty complex. As we've addressed in previous episodes of this podcast, there's going to be elements of you that you have to unpack and shed and, deal with. And then there's going to be elements of like external things that you have to process. And then there's going to be other people. It's extremely complex and it's extremely detailed, and it can kind of be overwhelming. It's not an easy process, and it is freaking hard, but it is worth it. And so you have to ask yourself, is this worth it to you? Is your dream worth it to you? Is it worth it to you to drop this weight and have a healthier lifestyle for the future? Is it worth it to you to build this business so you can have an additional set of income for your family? Is it worth it to you to become this person and go to therapy and have a better perspective about yourself and your marriage and your relationships? Is it worth it to you to put in the work and become an influencer or establish a personal brand and lead people in any aspect? If so, you just have to consider all of the elements that we've talked about in this episode as a rite of passage to get where you want to be. And honestly, that's why very few people make it, because it's freaking frustrating to have to deal with what you're feeling and thinking. And on top of that, deal with what other people are thinking and feeling about you. That's why not very many people get to the top. But if you want to be there, I promise you it's worth being there. You just have to stay the course and do all of the things we've talked about in this episode. So you need to understand, if you quit because of criticism, you let those who doubted you win. If you're the type of person that's like motivated by like competition and stuff like that, then that'll motivate you. Don't let people be right. If they are doubting you simply because they don't like you, don't let them be right. Prove them wrong. Do this for you. Don't quit because of them. No, you're better than that. And you know what the best revenge is? Success. Because when you get where you said you always wanted to be, that is the best I told you so. There's nothing that somebody can say, hater or not, in order to disprove that you made it. So just prove them wrong. Be successful in what you are wanting to be in. And the only way to become successful in what you want to be is to keep going until you get there. So keep building, keep growing, and let them watch and be wrong. There will always be haters, because there will always be people who refuse to put into action the things that they say that they want for themselves. And when they see other people who are just like them doing what they can do, they could just as easily do it. It frustrates them. They get jealous. They get up in those comment sections. They subtweet. They do all of the things that bullies do. Because let's be honest, bullies are not just in high school, but you're better than that. You can prove them wrong and shut them up. It is unfortunately a part of our process to get where we want to go. We're doing this for us. So regardless of what someone says in a hate comment or what someone says in a gossipy private conversation or to your face or whatever it looks like for them to be a naysayer in your process, you are doing this for you. You have a vision, you have a goal, you have a dream. So the only person that really matters in this whole situation is you. Are you proud of yourself? Are you proud of the person that you're becoming? Are you proud of the fact that you are staying the course when everyone else is not doing what they could easily be doing to improve themselves? If so, that's all that matters. Keep going until you get where you want to be. And the things that all of those people are saying right now, or that they will say, or whatever, it will be muffled by the success and the satisfaction that you feel. Because you'll be at the top of the mountain. Like, what do you mean by what you're saying? I actually made it. All that to say, you'll figure it out. If you keep going, if you keep believing, you'll figure it out. I hope this was encouraging. I hope that you feel seen and validated. I hope that you feel heard and motivated to keep going, even when maybe the road is lonely and it's hard and long and difficult and people have no right to say whatever it is that they're saying, and yet they are. I get it. I've been there, friend. But you got this. You're so freaking strong. You are smart. You can be what it is that you believe that you can be. You're on the road already. So just keep walking, keep staying the course, and you will reach the mountaintop of whatever it is that you are striving for. Thank you so much for watching and so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and leaving me a like and a comment on this video? Maybe share it with a friend to encourage them so that we can get this content out and in front of more people to also encourage and inspire them. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, would you leave me a review and share this podcast with a friend to encourage them so we can also get this content in front of more people on different platforms? I really just want to be a voice in the darkness for people who feel like they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go in their process. So I just want to get in front of as many people as I possibly can. And that comes from your likes, comments, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Thank you so much for being a part of the Inheritance Podcast family. Leave me a comment on anything else you'd like me to talk about, whether it is personal or professional, and I will see you in the next episode.